Hello, in our today's session, we will go through the use case number 4 of part 2, Aruba ClearPass and AOS8 integration for common use cases. So in this use case number 4, we will go through how to do the ClearPass guest Wi-Fi copy portal self-registration with MAC caching and controller-initiated workflow. As usual, this is the firmware that I use in the lab. VMM VMC8606 CPPM693 Physical Logical Network Diagram. In this use case number 4, we will test on only one SSID called GRPX Guest Open. This is the detailed information for you to have the session to the ClearPass and Wi-Fi when you have access to the remote lab. Now to do the use case number 4, these are the summary steps that we need to do on the VMM, on the Wi-Fi and on the ClearPass. So let's go to the VMM first. I also assume that you already completed the use case 1 of part 2A. So the VMM, sorry, VMC 1 and 2 cluster configuration already been done in use case 1. The RAID server setup also been done in use case 1. So let's move to the next step to configure use role. So in fact, right, for this workflow, we will configure the new captive portal for um, this workflow. So basically, we will have so-called two roles. One is captive portal role, and another one is guest role. So captive portal is when first time when user log in with the self registration, right? And after that, after they register and get login successfully, they will get access to the internet. So let's define these two roles for this use case number 4. Okay, let's go to Wi-Fi. This is my VMM. Login, username admin, password Aruba at 123. Under LAN cluster, we do the configuration and go to roles and policy. Down here, we will create a new role for that. We can say that GRP8, yes, log on. We can call it UC4, use case number 4. Or we can say guess UC4, use case number 4, log on. This one to differentiate with the previous role we configure for previous captive portal use case. Of course, you can have a choice to use the same role, right? But when but if I use that, I have to go to modify the current setting, right, for the captive portal. So I just don't want to touch on that and create a new one, right, for this use case. This one is GRP8 guest UC4. This one means after user log in successfully, they will get this role and have internet access. Okay, and same for the internet access only, we go to advanced and we add the policy to only allow DNS, allow DHCP, and deny internet access, and then we permit internet, which is allow all. For this UC4 logon role, guest logon role, we do the same. We allow DNS, we allow DHCP, and then we allow access to ClearPass, right? So that user, when they are assigned to this role, they can see the captive portal from the ClearPass. And if we apply the captive portal policy, now this captive portal is for the redirection, right? And of course, to configure the redirection, we need to go into more authentication and we assign the captive portal profile. And we haven't configured captive portal profile for this one yet, so we will go and configure that, and later we come back here and we assign the captive portal profile into this um, use case for lock control. All right, so as you are aware in the previous use case 2 and 3, before we can create the captive portal profile, we should create the um, captive portal page under the ClearPass guest, right? So let's go to ClearPass guest and do that. Log into ClearPass guest and open the ClearPass guest. Admin Aruba at 123. Okay, so if sometime if you go directly to the guest page, you may not be able to log in, right? So you can do this. You can go to ClearPass Policy Manager. You log into this ClearPass Policy Manager. So once you log into to the ClearPass Policy Manager, then from there you can log into the ClearPass guest. Right, just this one, right, and you are in. Okay, so let's go here and you go to the uh, this option, right, under the pages, under the self registration. Um, because of this use case number 4, we try to do the copy portal with self registration. It means we allow the guest user to do the self registration, put in their username, their email, their company name, things like that, right? And they hit register to create their account by themselves. And after they create the account themselves, they can log in with their created account, right? So that's why we have to go and choose the self registration workflow from here, and we can create a new self registration page. We can name it. Okay, the way I name is part 2A use case number 4. Okay, part 2A use case number 4. In fact, you can name it in any any name you want, right? But I just want to use this name to you know to show that we are doing the use case number 4 for this workflow. Enable the self registration, right? I put it here. This is the page name, all right? Parent. So this one is standalone. We create a new one, so don't need to inherit from any parent page at all. Save and continue. We choose. So we just choose the Galleria skin, the one we already done some customization in the use case 2, right? Other setting, we just leave it there, right? And save and continue. This one is self registration page, right? You can modify this this wording, right? If you want, but for now, to make it simple, we just leave it there, leave it default, and we move to next step. Right, this is the page it will show after the user register. Save. All right, so it's asked if we want to do any customization on this page. So for now, we just leave it default, right? Sponsor sponsorship confirmation. So this just means that after user do the self registration, whether they need to wait for someone from the staff to approve the request before they can get access, or they just after they register and then the request will be auto approval. So for now we will try the auto approval first. Means after they hit register, their account will be created automatically and and it's ready for them to log in to get internet access. Save and continue. Okay, so now so after they log in, right, they have the option to go to hit login to be able to log into the network, right? The Wi-Fi to have the internet access. And the method login method here in this use case number 4 we will use is controller initiated, right? And as I mentioned, right? For now we are trying to do we try to bypass the issue with the cell-side cert when we are using the captive portal. So I will use this method, right? Do the HTTP post instead of HTTPS. And after users log in successfully, I will redirect them into this Aruba networks.com page. Save and continue. Okay, so this is a login form. It means after they register the account and they press login, right? It could do the pre-auth check. So now pre-auth we will use the local. It means the guest, ClearPass guest, it could check on their local database to make sure that the account is correct using password, right? Required term and condition. Their login page, this is a page it will show, right? So we just leave it there, default. Now, automatic login. So when we do the controller initiated, so we don't need to keep this one for so long, right? Because of for in this workflow, the 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 browser will do the post actively do the post HTTP post to the controller um, CN, right? That controller will intercept and initiate the request sent to the ClearPass. So in fact, it happened quite fast. So we can keep about 2 or 3 seconds we do. So I just keep 3 seconds, right? Save and continue. Enable self-service portal. So this one we allow the guest user to log into their own, you know, portal to be able to change their password or things like that. Most of the time, this option is not really needed because after user register and with the MAC caching, they don't need to re-log in again within the caching period, for example, 1 day. So this one we can leave it there or we can just turn it off, right? Save change. That's all, right? Come back to this one and we check this page again. Now there are two buttons here. One is a launch, one is a launch login. Launch is the page to show to allow the user to do the self-registration. And if you notice here, right, we just ask the user to key in the username and email address. And the login username will be their email address by default, right? And this is a register button. The sign in it is a paid for the user that they already have the username and password and they want to log in, right? But of course, in this workflow, uh, we will turn on the MAC caching workflow. So actually, it's not really needed for them to re-log in again, right? During the um, MAC caching period. So this with the page, we will need to redirect them when they are connected to the Wi-Fi. Okay, so we will save this one. Remember, we are doing the HTTP, not HTTPS, right? Now go back to the Wi-Fi. Under LAN cluster, under authentication, L3 authentication, captive portal, right? We create a new captive portal. We call CPPM captive portal use case what UC4. All right, so we just leave the row is use case 4 by default. In fact, we not really need that because of the row will be returned by the ClearPass. Redirect, redirect pause just 1 second, and this is a login page, right? Remove HTTPS and we use HTTP for authentication. And remember to include the switch IP address in the redirection URL. This one is required for the server initiated workflow for COA to work properly. Save change. Now one thing you notice that I forgot to configure, which is the server group. I need to specify the ClearPass as the authentication server for the captive portal. So when the user hit login, the controller will send request to the ClearPass for authentication. All right, so I have done the captive portal, right? Then now we go back to the logon row, which is this one. And now I need to assign that captive portal into this row. Just submit. authentication, copy portal. We choose a new one. Submit. Okay. So now we go back to the authentication, and then under sorry, not authentication. We need to change the SSID setting, right? Because currently we have the, let me check, right? So we test this one, the guest open, right? But currently, right, the guest open. Uh, let's take a look. What what is a AAA profile setting for guest open? Now, the guest open, the AAA profile is this one. So, and then you have the initial role assigned to this role, and this role it will map to the the another captive portal login, right? So now we need to create a new AAA profile, and we use a new role, right? So under here authentication, we go to AAA profile. Just make sure I follow the step, right? So I done this one. Now we are going to this one, right? In fact, we also already completed this step. Actually, we don't need to create the account for testing, right? This one is self-registration. Okay. Okay, so now we go to the AAA profiles configuration. Go to here. We just need to copy this one, submit as, and rename it AAA guest open use case 4. Okay, now we change the initial row to the new row, which is use case 4 logon row. All right. And this row we change to the new one. In fact, they are the same, but just make sure that we do the testing, right? It show the correct row, then we just change to this one. As usual, this is a Mac authentication workflow for Captive Portal, so we don't turn on the local X. Just turn on this one, and maybe, and turn on Raiders accounting and COA, right? Actually, we don't really use a COA, Raider COA for this workflow, but it's no harm to turn it on. So we can do the COA, issue the COA from the ClearPass to terminate the user session. Instead, we have to go to controller to clear the user session. Okay, so we have the AAA profile created. Now, actually, SSID profile we already configured. So we will use the same SSID profile we are having in the previous step, right? And we just need to, this one already been configured, right? We will use the same. In my case, I use VLAN 2908, but I will create a new um, so-called new web profile for this case, right? Now, so to create a new web profile, I will go to System, Profile, Wireless, Virtual IP. All right, so I just copy this one, submit as, and I say web guest open use case 4. All right, so the thing I need to change is AAA profile and map to the new one. You see all the row is changed to this new one. And that's it. SSID, I leave it there, right? Don't need to change because I leverage on the same SSID. Okay, so when I do that, right, I need to assign web to a to the AP group. So under AP group, under LAN, wireless LAN, right? Because of you notice that we are using the same SSID, so I need to remove this web before I can assign a new web into this one, right? So I go here, remove this one, and I assign that new one in. So now I have the new work. It's same SSID, but I have the new workflow, right? You can choose to define the new SSID also possible, right? For this workflow. Okay, so done. It means I already completed the Wi-Fi setting for this one, and now I can just go to the VMC 1 and 2 and do the testing. Alright, so I start the SSH. SSH to 8.51. Again, if you don't know or you forgot the IP address of your group, open the slide I share and you go to a logical network diagram, you see it there. Okay, so VMC1 is node 51. So show AP ESSID. All right, so it's here. Let's open. Right, so it's there already. Um, Now you may ask me that, oh, if I do that, right, what if it is the same, I I might make a mistake and I just want to create a new SSID for this testing. Then it is possible. It all means you can create a new SSID, define the new name there, then you will treat this one as totally a new use case for you, right? Um, all right, so let's go to the ClearPass configuration. Now, so for ClearPass, we already done the copy portal page, right? The next step we have to do is we have to create the policy. Now, in this use case, we are doing the server controller initiated. So for controller initiated and with the MAC caching, we need to have two policy. One is for the MAC authentication policy, and another one is for Radius authentication policy, right? So to make sure that we don't, we easier for us to troubleshooting later, we just copy these two policy, the first one, and we rename it part 2A use case 4, right? Save. And we have the this one, copy, and we rename it like part 2A use case 4. So we have the new two policy. Reorder, we move this one on top, right? So if you notice, right, when I move this one on top, it will always match these two policy instead of the policy of the use case number 2 because the matching condition are the same, right? Um, but this one have higher priority. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the MAC authentication, which is the first time when user connect. It go hit this MAC authentication. So matching condition, there's correct no chain, authentication no chain, authorization leave it there, role mapping leave it there. In fact, right, we don't really need this one because we only test on this SSD, but it's no harm to just leave it there, right? And under enforcement profile, this is where we need to change. Now, to change this so-called enforcement profile and not to affect to the use case 2, right? So we will duplicate this enforcement policy and then we modify on that new one. So we will go into the enforcement and policies here, part 2A CP control initiate. Okay, so it is a part 2A. This is the one, right? This is the one for Mac caching. So we will rename this. Okay, let me do this. Let me create another tab, duplicate, and I go to the current one. I take a look at what the name of this one. CP controller initiated Mac authentication. So I go to here, choose. This is the one, right? Mac authentication enforcement policy. Copy. I rename it to be the part 4. Sorry, part 2A use case 4 and save. I do the same for the second one because later I need to modify for the second one also. Let me see second policy it use what? Part 2A use case 2 CP. Okay, so it means that this is the one that I need to duplicate also, right? Copy, go to here, rename it, use case number 4. Done. So once I rename it, right, I can go to here. Now go to the first one, enforcement. I change to use case number 4. Policy are the same, but at least for now, if I make the modification on this one, it will not affect to use case 2, right? Okay, so what will be the condition? So first of all, right, we don't need to have this one because we don't really use that SSID, right? And because of that, we also can remove this one. All right, now we need to change this enforcement profile. So when user first time they connect, They should be set to guest log on, but not this guest log on row. It had to be guest UC4 log on row, right? So we just save this one first. And you notice, right? If we want to change, we have to change. We have to go and copy this two row, right? And we will modify it. Go to here. All right. So let's say which row we need to do. Log on row and guest open row one. So log on row. This one. Copy and guest open and guest this open row one. This is the one. Okay. So copy these two. All right. So we go to log on row. Now we want to assign the user to the captive portal log on row, right? Remember on the controller, we define the new row for that. So the row is grp8 guest UC4 log on, right? So grp8 guest UC4 log on. So this is a new and use case number 4. Okay. So we copy this row name as attribute and we return to the controller. Save. Go to here, we do the same. Use case 4. Now this one is guest open, but the row we configure is guest UC4, right? Okay, so we just guest UC4 row 1. Here guest UC4. All right, so we already have the new two row defined and configured here, right? And we can go back to our policy, modify. This is where we can change, edit rule, right? Remove this one and add our new row. Use case 4. Let's go and find it is here, right? Guest log on page. I know this one is the first one means guest row, not guest log on. Guest log on is here. Remove this one and choose the log on row. All right, so that's done for the first one. Save and save. Now we go and modify the second, right? Service, nothing change. Leave it there. Authorization, leave it there. Row, leave it there. And okay, this one we need to actually we just leave it there because we're not really uh, leverage on this row mapping because we only use one single SSID. So we can go to enforcement here. We modify this is what we need to change. Sorry, not modify. We need to go to here and we choose a new one, right? This is the one. Save. Once we save, we look at the enforcement profile. Now we need to copy this new one and this new and we modify it, right? But before we do that, we can remove the second one, which is not needed for now because we only test on this single SSID. Save. Okay, and just save first. Go to here, enforcement. Now, this is the one we need to change. Case use case 2. Just copy this one, right? And we go to here. Okay, now take a look again. The first one is CP controller initiated yes make catching. CP controller yes make catching. This is the one, right? Actually, the attribute is the same. We can reuse this one, but I just want to make sure that the naming convention is consistent. So I just use 4. Right? Actually, the attribute here we don't need to change. It is same. It's the same attribute we want to write down to the endpoint database for make catching. And this one, yes, row. So okay, I can do this. Just copy entire this one. Go here, filter. Right. So I need to do the row, not row 1, right? The difference you notice, right? The row is only return the row, but row 1 is return both row and username. So this row 1 is for the MAC authentication. Row is for readers authentication. So we just go here, copy. Now you may ask why for Raiders authentication you don't need to return the IETF username. That's because of in Raiders authentication it already used a username, so you don't need to return the username to override the the MAC address showing in the authentication. So go here, use case number 4. Now this is the row. So this is a row when it's returned when user hit login successfully. So it's guess UC4. Check again. Yeah, guess UC4. Okay, copy this one and you change it from here. Save. Alright, alright, done. So you already have the row. Go to here, modify it to the new row. You define edit rule and go to here, remove this one. Change to wait before I remove, right? Okay, it is MAC catching. Okay, so add in the MAC catching use case for MAC catching row, right? And use case 2, remove this one and add in use case 4. Use case 4, use case 4 here, right? Row not row 1. Okay, and we save. That's all. So after you done that one, basically your policy configuration completed. We can do the test already, right? So let's go to our endpoint and do the test. Okay, so this is my client, right? Jump host for testing purpose. All right, so we still connect to the same SSID, but before I do connect to this one, right, I go to endpoint database and I check, make sure that I don't have any catching, right? So remove all my catching, and let me see what is my address. Okay, so I can remove this one. Not so relevant. Okay, so go back to the client. I connect to this one. So when I connect to this one, right, it will authenticate. It will send a MAC authentication to the ClearPass. I mean, from the controller to the ClearPass, and ClearPass supposed to return the UC4 lock-on row, right? So when I have that lock-on row, it have the copy portal tied to that row, and the user will get redirected to the new captive portal with the self registration I configure under the ClearPass guest. Okay, so let's wait for a while for it to connect. Okay, connected. Oh, let me see. Look like I have some difficulty. Let me try again. While waiting for it to connect to Wi-Fi, I go back to the ClearPass and do a check on this one from Access Tracker. Uh, yes, I do receive the request come in, and I return the correct row as you can see from here, right? If I check from the controller, I should see that row. Yes, it get this row, and somehow it got difficulty to connect to this one. Um, okay, it's actually it's connected, but it say no internet. All right, so let me check what happened. IP config. Yes, I have the IP address correctly. No issue. Let me check the DNS. Yes, yes server. Try to ping to this one. Well, actually, I do not allow to ping, so I will not be able to ping. But I can ping to like intel.sg. Okay, so something wrong with the DNS, right? I can't access to DNS, so I have to go back to Wi-Fi. I check this row, make sure that I allow the DNS under this row. Okay, go to here. You see for lock on row. Show the detail. Oh, yeah, I miss out. I miss out the DNS policy, so I need to add that one in. Allow DNS, so that's the reason why I can't see the captive portal redirection, right? I move this one above, then I apply the change. So when I do that, right, I need to make sure that this new policy applied to the user. To do that, I need to force the user to re-log in. So I go to ClearPass, I issue the COA to kick the user out, right? So after I do that, it will have, I would expect to have to see the new authentication request come in. Yes, it is. And I can go back to the client. Tada! We can see the Captive portal, right? So please take note that the DNS is required and is mandatory. Make it work so the Captive portal can work. Okay. Now you see here, this is the Captive portal page, but it is the new page I just create. It allowed me to do the self-registration. Now I can put my the name here. I say that guest 2 at yahoo.com. Sorry, I just put guest 2 here, right? And this is the username and the email address guest2 at yahoo.com. Confirm, register, done. You notice, right? This is the guest self-registration with the auto approval. Means there's no sponsor approval required. So that's why after I just hit register, I see the login button here. It's allowed me to log in right away, right? And by default, you see the activation time. It shows that today, right, at 11:30 a.m. and expire time is next day. So by default, if you don't do anything, the guest account on this workflow, it will allow for 1 day. So later we can do some customization to, let's say, to do it, let's say for 1 week or less than 1 day, like let's say for 12 hours, right? So now we just hit login and see what happened. When we hit login, it will start to do the login, right? Here, tada, it works, right? So let's take a look at the ClearPass to see what is a workflow. So you see, this is the first time when user connect to the captive portal. So it's returned to the logon row, new row we have here, and that's it. And user need to finish the self registration. And after they done that one, they will hit the login. And when they do the login, basically it will the ClearPass, it will hit the policy and it return the first of all is a MAC catching policy, right? So basically the MAC catching policy, it is just the way the ClearPass will write the the guest row when the MAC will be expired date and the username of the guest user into the endpoint database of that MAC address, right? So subsequently, if the user log in again, right, it will leverage on this information and do the policy check-in, right? So if let's say the MAC authentication expiry date is still valid, then it will assign the the MAC catching row means the user allowed to go directly to this row without going to Captive Portal again to log in, right? So that's how it works. And of course, this is a role to say that, okay, after you log in, I allow you to go internet. So ClearPass just return a role to the Wi-Fi controller to override the logon role by this guest role. So if you take a look at the controller, you'll see the role it changed from UC4 log on back to the UC4. And this is the reason why the client can have access to internet. You can try another page like, yahoo.com. Yet, yet it works, right? No issue. Okay. All right. So we have done the so-called the self use case 4 with the self-registration workflow, right? But now we want to do something more, right? So something more means that we want to customize the login page, right? Or self-registration page, right? So let's do some customization. Now under this page right now we say that okay, I want to show to ask the user not just key in the username and email address. I want them to put in the phone number, for example. So how? So to do that, you go to under register page. You see here, you go to the form. You click to the form, and you notice what by default the sponsor visitor phone is not enabled. So that's why you don't see that one that fill in that fill in the self registration page, right? So you can go here and you can enable field. Just simple like that, right? Once you do that, right, you can go back to the the page for testing here. You refresh the page, and ta-da! You see there's phone number is showing here. Okay, right. It means that when the user log in, sorry, when user do the self registration, now they need to put in their phone number, right? Or for example, you want to say that when they register the account, I want the account to have longer period, for example, right? So under here you see expired after, right? This one. So expired after, by default it is just for 1 day. So we can go here to click edit, and we see the initial value, right? So down here it say for 24 hours. So this is the hour period, right? But um, we say that okay, I don't want 24 hour, right? I just want to enable account is for 12 hours, for example, right? That's all, and then we just key in this here 12 hours, and then we just click save. Okay, right. So once we done that one, so we make two modification on the page. So let's go back to the page again, right? Go back to the page here, edit. Now we also need to check at the receive page form. It means that after user register, what information will be showing here, right? So basically, we see all this information will be show, sponsor name, email, yes, everything, right? So that's all. We just leave it there, and let's see, right? Let's try and test this one out. So to test this one out, we will need to go to ClearPass and we remove the caching again. Oh, I haven't shown you the caching. How does it work, right? Just go here. It is the same experience. If you try to clear the session of this guest user from the controller, it means to simulate the user go out for for lunch for 1 hour and come back, right? They reconnect to Wi-Fi. Then they just do. You see there. This is a Mac uh, authentication. It hit the MAC authentication service. The below one, this is the radius authentication. It's different, right? But this time, even it's MAC authentication, but it have the MAC caching policy. That's why it get this row, right? It gets this row. And you remember for MAC caching, right? It will return the username also. So that's why the username on the ClearPass you see is showing here instead of it showing the MAC address of the user. Okay, just to show you that this is for the radius. So radius is used, the authentication method is PEP. In this case, when user hit login, right? But MAC authentication is used as MAC auth. So they are two different uh, authentication method. That's why it hit different services. So don't get confused into this one. Okay. All right. So let's remove the cutting portal. Sorry, the web caching here and test again. Remove and then go here COA again. Now, if we COA one more time, you will notice that it will return the cutting portal row, right? Take a look. You see here? And now if you go back, output, you see this cutting portal row. And if you go back to the client, you would expect the client to show the cutting portal when you open any browser, right? For example, if you open the browser, it's connected, right? No internet. Oops. Okay, if I go to like intel.com, what will happen? Okay, so it just say connect, and I see the cutting portal again, right? Now this time I key in my username. Let's say guest 3, right? Phone number, for example, and then here I choose a Singapore. Now the Aruba ClearPass Security Portal, right? It will automatically recognize the phone number. I mean the country code, because now my IP address is I go through the US. This is through the HPE network, so that's why it shows the US US postal code. But if if exit is from Singapore, then this one it will show the Singapore, right? Singapore here, for example, right? Email address guestg@yahoo.com. accept register. So it show expiration date time. It is, you see that it is 12 hours. So it means from 11:39 today until 11:39 p.m. today, right? In previously we see is for next day, right? Hit login. That's all. We're supposed to be able to log in to this one without any issue. Yes, it is. Okay, so let's come back to the ClearPass and take a look on this one. It is the same, right? Nothing fancy on this policy under the ClearPass gas, right? Sorry, under the ClearPass CPPM. But if you go back to the ClearPass gas, you check the gas account, you will notice that for gas 2 expiration date is on next day, you see there. But on gas 3 it is on the today 29:39. It means after 12 hours, right? You can go here to show the detail. You should be able to find the field called the phone number, right? Visitor phone number, which is we enter, during the self registration, right? But of course, if you go to this one, you will not find that field. You see that there's no phone number because of we don't ask the user to give the phone number, right? Okay, so so what could be the next step that we need to do here for for testing on the another workflow, which is we require the sponsor approval, right? So for the sponsor approval workflow, we need to customize the self registration page a bit. Now, then you may ask me why we need to have the sponsor approval because of the customer may ask you that they don't want the guest or visitor come in, register, and then they just get access directly to the network, right? They want when they come in, they need to put in the sponsor email address and need to get approval from that sponsor user before they can get access to to internet to make sure that only the visitor come in for a business purpose, like for the meeting, and they meet the host, and the host know who they are, then they can approve the request for them, not open guest for everyone, right? So how can we do that? Okay, so we go back to this page configuration, self registration. Under here, click edit. Now you remember in the last workflow, right? We have the option to turn on the sponsor approval. So you can go here to make it easy, right? You can go here, edit. You see here sponsor confirmation. Click on this one and click enable. Now when you turn on sponsor confirmation, right? There's option, right? It requires sponsor confirmation prior to enable the account. Yes, authentications, if you check this one, it means that when sponsor sponsor the want to approve the request, they need to log in first. It means that they need to have the account, have the privilege to have the sponsor approval, uh, you know, privilege. So for this time, we just make it simple. We don't need to do the authentic. So sponsor just need to click to and approve. And because of the other stuff, right? So the email will be, so when user register, right, they need to put in the sponsor email, and after they hit register, the request or approval requirement request will send to this sponsor email, right? And we use the email confirmation is sponsorship confirmation, right? Skin, we use a default skin, or we use a you know any, right? So we just use a default skin. In case you want to send the copy of this email to, let's say, to email group, let's say for um, a group of the people like concierge or receptionist, right, to help to approve on behalf, then you can keep the um, receptionist email under the CC list, right? So for here we just don't need to CC and row override, right? This one is for the different use case where we want to do some. So default is a guest role. But let's say after the sponsor approve this one, they want to give them another privilege. For example, by default, it can only get 12 hours, right? But after they get approval from the sponsor by the, by the sponsor, then sponsor can choose how long they want to extend to this one. So instead of 12 hours, right, the sponsor um, can say, okay, you come here, I can allow you to access to network for 1 week or 2 days, whatever, right? So we can do that by doing this one, right? Account override, and we can specify the extended expiration date. We allow sponsor to override instead of do 12 hours for now. Okay, save and continue. All right, so that's all. This one no change, leave it there. Save change. Okay, so if we go back here, right, after so we already enable the sponsor confirmation, right? We go back to the page, we refresh again. Oh, what happened? I'm supposed to see the sponsor email field for the user to key in, but I can't see here. You need to do one more step. You need to go to the register page, go to the form, and you enable the sponsor email. This is the missing part, right? So enable this one in. By default, it's not enabled. Okay, so go back here again, refresh the page. Ta-da! Now we see the sponsor email is here. Okay, so that's all. Now we can do the test for this one. Um, okay, so let's go to the endpoint database and we remove the all the caching attribute, right? And we go to ClearPass, we issue the COA to disconnect the user and force the user to reconnect with the new row, which is log on row, right? Okay, it's here. Action needed, click here on this one, it will bring me to Conti Porter. Now I see the sponsor approval. I can say my email, for example. Okay, guess 4, phone number, leave it there. Guess 4, register. Right, what will happen? Now you notice one thing, right? When you do that, the page here, the login page, the login button is gray out. You can't the visitor can't press login because of sponsor haven't approved yet. And this page will refresh every 30 seconds, right? So now the next step is the guest, the sponsor, in this case, my case, have to approve the request, right? Now, but you notice that under the ClearPass, I haven't configured any so-called email um, email setting, email server setting yet. So that's why I will not be able to receive any email. So to do that, right, to as a workaround, I can go directly to the page under the guest user account, manage account, and I see this guest user is here, but the state is disabled. Then I can go here and I can sponsor from here. But in fact, right, in the um, you know real workflow, it need to have the email sent, and then we go here and and sponsor. Just go and click to sponsor. But I try here first, right? Sponsor, click confirm. That's all. So once I click confirm, so after 30 seconds, right, this page will be refreshed and the login button will be, turned on for me to log in. Okay, so let's wait for a while, 30 seconds. Um, Done, right? So hit login now. We're supposed to be able to get access to internet. Yes, it is. Okay, now let's come back and take a look at the access tracker. So we see here the same, nothing fancy here. Log on row where user first time log in and then hit login, and then they have the all the caching right to that one. No problem. If even you want to go here and you issue the COA to clear, it will still get the same access because of the MAC caching is there, right? Here, yeah. This is the MAC authentication, and they have the internet access. Okay, now um, I still not really happy with this one, right? Because of What if I want the user, right, when they key in the sponsor email here, they have to key in the email with the domain of the company. I don't want them to put the, some funny email, just do some spamming or whatever, right? So I have, so to be able to achieve that requirement, I can go to here, um, under the configuration, go to this page, right? This one, edit, you can go to form, right? Now, the one you need to verify is under sponsor email, edit. Okay, so here there are few of there are some some va validation that you can leverage on this one to check, right? Again, right, I already configured this one, but I forgot already, right? So I have to search for that. So I have another ClearPass already set up and it's working now, so I can go that one and take a look what are the setting I done for that. Okay, so I go to here, go to ClearPass gas. I go to the page. Let me go to one of the page I have done. Um, this one, form, sponsor email. Did I? Oh, not this one. Sponsor. Here. Form, sponsor email, edit. You see there? So this is the format, right? Under the allow, you can add the array, a list of the so-called check-in. What are the domain you want to allow? So I can copy this format, right? Back to here, and I just allow array. Put it here. Is the correct one? Yes, under array, right? So if you put under allow like this, right, it means that when the user key in the sponsor email, it have to contain the hp.com. If they try to key in something different, then it will not allow, right? So I will try to allow two. So that's first zero. Another one is allow the one. Second one is comma. Let's say gmail.com, for example, right? Oh, no. Okay, yeah. So it means I only allow two domain, hp.com and gmail.com. Save. Okay, so let's go to this one. Remove this. Right, attribute. Save. And issue a COA to disconnect the guest user. Done. Right. Go back to this one and take a look. Click here. And I should be redirected to Captive Portal. Now down here, right, if I put something, for example, HPE, I don't put HPE, I put yahoo.com. You see what will happen? It says that please enter a valid email address, right? But sometimes, right, the user may not know that, hey, this one is not really good message. I want to say that please enter a valid email address on from these two domain, like hp.com and gmail.com, for example. At least to the user, it will make more sense, and user know that, oh, they have to use this one only allowed for those two domain, right? So for to do that, I come back here and I do one further customization, right? So there is the you see a validation error. So I say that please enter a valid email address, only email from hpe.com and at gmail.com are allowed. Change. That's all, right? And go back here, try one more time, register. You see there? Now it's quite clear already. So only email from hp.com and at gmail.com domain are allowed. Okay, so it means that if I put in, for example, gmail.com, as I put sponsor at gmail.com, for example, right? I hit register. That's all. So I can register, right? And the ClearPass will send the email to this sponsor for approval, right? Okay, so let's take a look at um, guest manage account. Because of now I don't have I haven't configured the uh, e- email setting yet on the ClearPass, so I can't send email out, right? Sponsor, I can approve here, right? Another thing is that you can go to here under the support, under the application log, you'll see what happening, right? When for troubleshooting purpose, right? So you see when the user hit register, so ClearPass guest will try to send out the email to this one, but now it's throw the error sending, sending email message. That's because of it cannot send out. There's no SNMP server configured. So for those, if you really want to do that, right, you have to go to administrator under the CPPM and under the external server. Yeah, and under messaging setup, you need to set up the SMTP setting here. So one of the tests is that you can use the Gmail and do the setup here for your testing, right? Um, okay, so that's all for us today for the test case, for use case number 4, where we do the guest Wi-Fi Captive Portal self-registration with the MAC caching and controller initiated workflow, right? Um, and we also cover for the sponsor approval workflow, right? In for some more detail, right, you can always come to the Aruba community page, right, and you search for Aruba Wi-Fi, Aruba ClearPass, I guess sponsor approval. There are quite a lots of workflow already have, right, here, so you can go here and take a look, right. If you have any question or you have anything, right, anything further, can drop me a message, right. This one is a message. Let me see. There are some how to enable sponsor approval. This one is for BYOD. No. Let's see if we have something here. Okay, so this is a good one. We even have the ClearPass workshop for guest self registration, right? So can leverage on this one for this purpose. Okay. All right. So for that's all for our for this session for this use case number 4. And thank you for your listening.